that appeared in the Hindu, Economic Liberalization and its Faults. This article is focusing on the negative side of liberalization. In fact, this article is using the ongoing COVID crisis to substantiate its arguments. So now let us see some basics about liberalization. In case of India, liberalization started in 1990s. This can be seen in 1991-92 budget, which ended the license Raj. Further, there was more emphasis on reduction in import duties, opening of India for foreign manufactured goods, promotion of foreign direct investment, and of course the idea of self-reliance was also getting discarded. This idea of self-reliance was about import substitution and building indigenous capacity. Thus, the era of liberalization took firm root in India. There are many positives as well as negatives of this liberalization as such. So let us now see some of the positives and some of the negatives. So in terms of negatives, let us see first positives. There is increasing range of products, there is increasing choice and quality, such as many brands of smartphones are there in the market today. Similarly, new avenues of employment generation has been seen, like IT and IT enabled services such as employment generation in BPO, online shopping, e-commerce, etc. There is increasing competition and that is leading to the economic efficiency also. However, at the same time, negatives are also there, such as increasing inequality, rich becoming richer and poor becoming poorer. For example, Oxfam report in this January 2020, it says wealth of India's richest 1% is more than 4 times that owned by 70% the poorest. Similarly, loss to environment due to indifferent use of resources such as global warming and climate change. These are some of the negatives of this liberalization era. Now let us see some of the arguments of the writers who say liberalization is a disastrous model, and their arguments are based on two important points: debasing of manufacturing and the dangers of dependence as a fallout of this debasing of manufacturing. This they substantiated with our fight against COVID getting diluted because of dependence. Now let us see why debasing of manufacturing. MNCs started shifting the production base to smaller countries, mainly in Asia, because of some of the things like cheap labor, raw materials. In fact, shifting polluting and labor intensive industries suited them till they held the ownership. Why? Because the pollution and labor standards in developed countries are stringent and costly to comply with. That's why they shifted to the poorer and smaller countries. But this led to loss because global supply chain now got concentrated to a few locations. And the best example we can see is the China becoming global supplier of active pharmaceutical ingredients, personal protection equipments, medical devices, and so on. That is China becoming the global supplier of manufactured goods. So there is concentration and centralization of manufacturing. This is one big loss. And here the writers are arguing against dangers of dependence. There was a poor state of preparedness and dependence on imports for essential goods. And this can be seen how the developed countries are facing the challenge. For example, the shortage of ventilators, PPE, and all these things. That UK PM had to ask his country's manufacturers to produce ventilators to meet the crisis demand. Similarly, US has to invoke Defense Production Act to ramp up the production of N95 masks. So is the case with India also. India is also importing lakhs of rapid testing kits from China. Now friends, let us see liberalization in the context of India. So in case of India, three arguments the writers have given. The first is the license Raj dismantling. The government stopped asking for the information from manufacturers about the quantity of production of medicine, and as such there is now elimination of channels of information for government, which is needed for informed policy making. For example, weeks were taken and several meetings were held to gather information about the stocks and the production capacity of pharmaceuticals, PPE, diagnostics, etc. So this is one negative aspect of license Raj dismantling, which is getting highlighted by the writers. Now the second argument is that the logic of economic liberalization is itself flawed. How they are proving it flawed? They say that the economic liberalization focuses on the profitability. It should increase. For example, import of raw materials from cheapest sources. Now one good example of this being harmful is the debasing of API industry in India. API means active pharmaceutical ingredient, this industry got debased in India. It was on the harmful side. The CII, Confederation of Indian Industries, says that India has 70% dependence on Chinese imports for API. Clearly, this has led to dangers of dependency, as the writers are arguing, that we have to even import the reagent for testing from China. Then the third aspect is pressure to ease labor laws to facilitate the global production and supply chain. For example, relaxation of hire and fire policy, fixed term employment, etc. We must emphasize here that the plight of our labor force which work in precarious conditions and without any social security, this lack of social security for our labor force is one big challenge for us. So friends, to conclude, the COVID crisis has posed a question before us regarding our emphasis on economic efficiency and the liberalization policy. Given our fight against COVID getting diluted due to dependence on imports from China, for example, should not we give weightage to building core capacity such as in health products? This is one big question that the ongoing COVID crisis has posed before us. Thank you.